The Affirmative Repositioning yesterday dropped a bombshell over the farm's acquisition by Russian billionaire, disclosing that contrary to latest media reports, government had bought the land for him and not the other way around. The movement produced documents at an urgent press conference which revealed that Rashid Sedarov had not bought the 4 farms from the owners. The documents revealed that instead, government forked out 43 million Namibian dollars on the 14th of September 2018, with the purchase deal signed by Lands Minister Utoni Nyoma to hand over to Sedarov 4 days later. Panda described the transaction as a blesser and blessee scenario and slammed government for selling the country to the highest bidder.
We call this press conference on an urgent basis because we analyzed the reporting around these issues of the Russian billionaire, and we concluded that everybody else in the country has actually been taken for a ride. And we are saying that in the context that we predicted this thing, because when we decided on the 27th of September that we're not going to be participating in the gimmick, some people thought that we were being unnecessary.
Emotional.
But we were being emotional or whatever. But we knew already that this thing is going to be a gimmick that is hoodwinking the unsuspecting masses, and also meant to sustain, to defend the status quo. So some people are now beginning to understand when some of these things are coming out. We said in our statement, you can go and verify that after that land conference, foreigners will still keep 2.5 million hectares of land. It's the case until now. We also say that white will continue to keep 70% of the land. It's the case until now. And we also say that foreign friendly resolutions are going to be taken. So when the revelation that the Russian billionaire bought 3 farms, we're not surprised because that's what we're expecting. Now we see a lot of them that were in the conferences that are calling us, guys, what is going on? And we say, no, check. You were saying that we should just go there. And we say, we went there to legitimize the gimmick. We were supposed to take a principled decision. Now you go to a conference where people present from day one, including those that are saying that the constitution can't be amended. And no one is allowed to confront them and ask them questions. So all those guys that were presenting, nobody asked them questions. They just presented all the way. From President Nyoma to the lawyers to President Pohamba, we're supposed to engage them if we're in that conference. But because it's a gimmick, no one was allowed to ask those questions. So they say, no, let's just go and raise the issues. Then they take resolution with no date. So in other words, the regime is now saying, no, we never said we're going to implement this year. We can even implement in 2030. So we are going to have a separate discussion on the land conference. But the reason why we're calling you here is we called you here because of this Russian billionaire. And we indicated to you that we see a number of lines. We now have gotten the document we have in our position the agreement between government and the Russian billionaire. We also have in our position the document. The first lie was that government apparently bought the Russian billionaire bought the farms from the owners. It's a lie. We have a document from the deeds office that where Utoni Nyoma declares on behalf of government that government have bought these farms on behalf of the billionaire. Government spent on the 14th of September, according to this document, government spent 43 million from those 2 companies you find in the documents in our statement. So government buys these farms. In other words, just a normal resettlement process where the government acquires a farm and then advertises it, then we all apply for resettlement farms. So here, but when government bought these farms, according to this document, they didn't advertise. It wasn't necessary to advertise because we already have the blessee. So the blesser, that is government, wanted to bless the blessee, which is the Russian billionaire. 4 days later, on the 18th of September, government concludes, Utoni Nyoma on behalf of government concludes an agreement with that company for them to apparently lease these 4 farms for 160 Namibian dollars, 160,000 Namibian dollars for 2018-2019 year. After that, it's only going to be subjected to land tax. So in other words, but what this also means is that, but say for argument's sake, this guy end up paying 160,000 per year. is only going to pay about 15 million for 99 years when you multiply 160,000 times that. So we have all those information in here. That government was not interested. I think the Namibian had a story that government was not interested. In fact, I think the Namibian must have spoken to Tony and say government is not interested in buying those 4 farms. As a result, according to the version that is not only in the Namibian, many other newspapers, as a result, the Russian billionaire, who was already in discussion with the owners, now went to buy the farm. The Russian billionaire. But the documents here declares, I, the undersigned Tony Nyoma, in my capacity as minister, do hereby declare that the government of Namibia has purchased the undersigned properties from Rainbow Farming Pty Ltd. And all those other ones. So in other words, it's a lie. The Russian billionaire never bought those farms according to the documents that we have in our possession, unless there is something, even if they are to say that there is a typo in their document, because even the agreement in this document that are there, they are contradicting. That's why we are saying a fully fledged investigation is warranted. But the evidence that is before us is that government bought those farms. It's not true that the government was not interested, because the document we have Tony Nyoma's signature. What I also say in the third line is that this guy bought it for 43 million. We clearly see that there is nothing like that in terms of the documentation. So this is a situation of a blesser and a blessee. Here you have Jack Huang. Here you have a Chinese with citizenship. Here you have a Russian billionaire. Here you have the foreigners that are owning 2.5 million hectares. What is in for us as a country? Here you have our country importing 70% of the. There is basically nothing, because all these guys are selling our country to the foreigners, are prioritizing the foreigners, even in their gimmick of a land conference. All we are hearing is that, no, we need foreign investors, In other words, this is a government for the foreigners, in the interest of the foreigners. So we need to be able to stand up and confront all these guys. Because if this is what is reduced to our government, it means that, guys, it's gone. It's gone. The Minister of Home Affairs says there's nothing wrong with giving citizenship to Chinese. But majority of our people, that basically, where are we going to survive in this country?
In fact, if we will go into the Shikotos, there where we have our villages, you find a man as old as 80 years old, don't even have an ID. They don't have an ID, a Namibian document, ID, they don't own it. But a Chinese has one, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs says nothing wrong with that scenario. So we should ourselves is that, where do we belong in this food chain? Where do we belong in this ecosystem? I would just here maybe just to vote every 5 years. We vote, because even those big machines, we don't go into deep Havana what they say is illegal. But yet again, the Chinese can come, own land, have dinner with the president, own the farm, and still. But then the Namibian that deserves it is seen as if it don't exist.